Let me be brutally honest with you. Most of the thrift store items you're buying right now are junk. They won't sell, they'll cost you money, and they'll absolutely destroy your motivation. However, if you could unlock the secrets to be able to source profitable items every single time, well, you'd be able to turn your eBay business into a money-making machine. And I should know, I've been an eBay seller for the last 5 years, and over the last 3 years, I've been able to generate over $100,000 a year in revenue. This is all I do, all day long. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to separate the good items from the bad items by giving you my 20 sourcing lesson playbook so you can start sourcing profitable items right away. And if you want a free copy of the playbook, I'll leave the code for you right here. Now, before we jump into these 20 buying lessons, let's get one thing crystal clear. When it comes to having success selling on eBay, there are only two things that matter: product and price. If you don't have the right product to begin with, your buyers aren't simply going to be searching for what you have to sell. You're going to get really low sales, you're going to get deflated, and you're going to end up quitting. You must be buying the right product. And then from there, step 2 in the process is doing your research to make sure that the price point that you choose to select is competitive enough, because you can quickly turn a good product into a bad product by simply pricing the product incorrectly. Nothing else matters. Titles don't matter as much, descriptions don't matter as much, item specifics don't matter as much. All you need to nail as an eBay seller is price and product. So think for yourself, when you're out in the thrift store next, ask yourself these two questions. Is this the right product? And can I price it competitively while also making a profit? If you can be thinking about those two things when you're outsourcing, that is going to be fundamentally the way you win when it comes to selling on eBay. Lesson number 1. Now, it would be inappropriate of me to talk about this lesson any sooner than the first thing we talk about, and that is the customized filters on the eBay app. If you are out in a thrift store looking for an item to purchase, you must have the eBay app on hand. If your phone's dead, go and get it charged before you go into the thrift store. You must be using this for product research before you buy every single item. Now, there are customizable filters that you can lock out before you go up and search for an item. I won't go through all of that process in this video, but I am going to leave a little cheat sheet on the screen here for you, so feel free to pause the video and grab all of this information and utilize it in your own eBay app to make sure you start sourcing correctly. This is going to be fundamentally important to make sure that you're getting a true, accurate description of, one, how well your product sells, but also, again, that product price, that really important product price of how much your item goes on to sell for. So lock out your filters, get into the thrift store with the eBay app, and start scanning. Lesson number 2. So you want to be checking the sold data on every single item that you're potentially buying. We all know this, hopefully you're now aware of that. But what I think often gets neglected is the active listings. The active listings are the competition that you're going to be literally competing against to try and get your item to go on to sell. So if there are sold data that's showing you one thing, have a look to see as well what the active listing quantity is as well, but also what the price points are of those active listings. Because if you could price yourself competitively as an active listing and then compete to get the first sale, well, you're going to get a faster sell-through rate on the item, and hopefully you're still going to be quite profitable. So I always think that that's a really important lesson. Do the comp searching of solds, but then just out of curiosity, just toggle off solds and just check those active listings to see how competitive you can be. Now, before I jump into the next lesson, guys, we are at 52,000 subscribers. And if you are enjoying these videos, these are the types of videos that I make on a consistent basis. And I really want to make these videos the best that they could possibly be. And I'm motivated to do that based on the number of subscribers that I see growing every day. So if you could take 1 second out of your time to hit that subscribe button, I'll jump straight back into the next lesson for you. Lesson number 3. Now, this is a big beginner mistake that I'll often see. People get so excited about, oh, it was only $1, it was only $2, how good's that? It sells for $20, $30. That's fantastic. What that refers to is the Hail Mary play. The item that you find for $1 at a yard sale that turns into $100 on eBay. That is fantastic, and it does happen every now and again, but if you're trying to build a side hustle eBay business and bring in consistent income, you're really going to need to learn to spend up for the items that you purchase. Your best sales are generally going to come from the items that you've paid a little bit more money for. Every so often you're going to get that really big ROI, that big profit return, but if you can be knowing that you're spending up to buy the great items every single time, well, you're just generally going to sell more items and have better success with eBay. So get out of the mindset of, oh, it needs to be cheap for me to buy it. Just because it's cheap actually doesn't mean you should buy it. I would almost say no to those cheap items and just start looking for the $20, $30, $40 buys that convert into $150, $160. So big lesson, guys, just because it's cheap doesn't mean you should buy. Lesson number 4, you really need to make sure that you're factoring in your fees and your shipping costs when it comes to finding out that sold comp. You might see a sold comp for $50, but it's a big stack of heavy books, and those books may cost you $25, $35 to ship off. When you take out eBay fees that work out to generally around about 15%, well, suddenly you've lost all of that potential profit in fees and postage costs. This is a really, really important step, and I really highly recommend that you guys trial eProfit. The eProfit calculator is totally free. There is a paid version to eProfit, but the calculator portion is a free service, and you can use this to type in the metrics of the potential costs associated to the item that you're trying to sell and work out whether or not there's actually true profit left over at the end of the day. So check out eProfit, but just be aware fees and shipping costs can end up causing you to not want to buy an item. Lesson number 5, sort of alluding off the fact that we've just spoken about fees and shipping, I would probably kind of steer clear if you're a beginner eBay seller with big, large, bulky, heavy items. And generally speaking, when it comes to postage, the heavier and the bigger your item is, the more cost you're obviously going to have to pay. And when you don't have the advantages of things here in Australia, like the MyPost business discount, whereby a level 5 discount is going to be so much cheaper in postage than a level 1 beginner poster, you're going to be able to save yourself a lot of money when you get into it at a later point in time. Being an experienced seller has much more of an advantage to be able to sell those big, bulky, heavy items because we don't pay as much in postage. So what I'm trying to say here is when you're out there looking for items, just take into consideration the size and the weight of the item, because postage as a beginner can be pretty nasty. Lesson number 6, condition is king. Now, we talk about product and price, but you've also got to be very aware that there is another little thing that determines how good that product and price is, and it's the condition of the product that you've got, which determines what the price is going to be. There's a lot of nuances to this, guys, and it is very up in the air, judgmental. It's your own decision-making process that really comes into it. And also the buyer's consideration as well when they determine the condition of your item. So this can be really finicky in things like Pokemon cards. You could have a Pokemon card that's worth $1,000, but if it's in really poor condition, that card is suddenly worth 50 bucks. So that's a really extreme example, but same goes for the category of something like clothing. If you've got a couple of marks or scratches on the item, well, that item could then depreciate in what the value of the item is actually worth. So condition is king. You really need to assess every single item that you buy for condition. Just because you're seeing great comps for that item, they may be crystal clear brand new product. If you've got a dirty used product that you're trying to compete against the brand new product, well, you're going to have to come in at a much lower price point. So condition is king, guys. Make sure you're focusing on that too. Lesson number 7. I have adopted many rules for my eBay business that I've documented on this YouTube channel over the last 5 years, but this is a massive one. This is the 48-hour rule, and I love this one. This one has come from the fact that I overwork. I'm an overworker, I'm a bit of a workaholic, and something that I need to do is stem the flow of how much product I sourced. And I didn't know how to do that because I found that I was finding so many profitable deals that were fitting all of my metrics all of the time. So the way that I kind of went about that was I thought to myself, you're going to have to come back and list up all of these products yourself, and if you can't do that within 48 hours, you're going to need to give yourself a sourcing ban to get through the stuff you've just previously bought. Now, I think that's a big concern for a lot of people out there. They just simply don't adopt that 48-hour rule, and they just continue to source, and they may source 90% of the time, but only list 10% of the time. So when you bring this 48-hour rule into play, suddenly 50% of your time is listing, 50% of your time is sourcing, and you've suddenly got a profitable eBay business. So this is a huge rule. I'm so glad I've adopted it, and I still use it to this day. It's been about 2 years of adopting this process, and I absolutely get a lot of value out of it. So I know it might be hard to say no to sourcing, but it could be the answer. Lesson number 8. This is a really good one if you're brand new to selling on eBay, or if you're thinking about getting into selling on eBay. Look for barcodes. Barcodes are so nice and easy off the eBay app to be able to just simply select the barcode scanner on the eBay app, and you can then pull up a bunch of comps off the barcode alone. So you can use the search functionality of literally typing in your product, but then again, there's so many variances when it comes to product selection on the eBay sold data that potentially just scanning the barcode is going to guarantee you an exact match of product, and you're going to be able to get a very good awareness as to what that product goes on to sell for. So I'll always say when it comes to doing those two things, there is a little bit of variance there. You are going to get a better search result when you type it in versus doing a barcode scan, because the UPC does need to be entered into the original listing that you're searching for to be able to have those results appear. If that doesn't make sense, that's totally fine, but an easier way to get a bigger reach is to type in the data. But if you're new and you're unsure and you want an exact match, go the barcode scan, and at least you'll get some results. Lesson number 9, niche sells. Now, what I mean by this is getting into the devil of the detail is going to be super important for you guys to maximize your returns. If you've got a potential category like a brat style, for instance, there is going to be a sliding scale of different price points for different types of brat styles. And if you can get into that variance and awareness around what the different variations of these items are, you're going to be able to make sure that you can identify the one that is worth a whole lot more money. So the devil is always in the detail, guys. You need to be making sure that you're looking into the category, but then even going fine-tuned into why the best ones are selling for the best amount of money. So niche is always the thing that sells best, guys. Get to know a product inside out and you'll be able to get a lot more money than if you didn't otherwise. Lesson number 10, beware of trendy junk. An example of this could be something like a fidget spinner. That took the world by storm, and a lot of people on TikTok were putting videos up, and you might be thinking, well, that's a great product that I should go and source for my eBay business. But then you quickly realize that it's got a short shelf life and it might not be selling for a lot of money. So therefore, it's actually not a great product, even though the demand for it and the hype around the product at the moment, or back in the day at least anyway, when it was trending, was so high. So you really want to make sure that you're kind of just going, okay, there seems to be demand for that, but does it fit my eBay metrics? Coming back to the eBay metrics at the end of the day is always going to be the answer to determine whether or not you should buy the item. Lesson number 11. This is something that I have, I guess I've been good and bad about this in the past. Sometimes I've done it, sometimes I haven't done it, and sometimes it's caused me to bite me in the butt. And what I'm referring to here is testing electronics. My recommendation for you is if you're buying a product and you're unsure if it works, you must try and find a way to test the product to ensure that it works. If you can't, then immediately you are going to need to do an untested 4 parts only listing and ultimately sacrifice top dollar because you haven't done the work of making sure that it is definitely tested and working. Saying that it is tested and working on a product that you have not tested is going to cause you to run into a lot of concerns. And if you're a beginner seller that is just starting out, this is a very quick way to go below standard and get a complete tanking on your listings and your views and your potential to make sales. So a very wary one here, guys. Electronics is a great category to sell, but please make sure you're testing it every single time. Lesson number 12. Here's another rule for you guys. Like I alluded to, I've got a bunch of rules that I could talk about, but this one's a great one. The $20 rule. Now, this has been adopted off my inexperience back in the day of sourcing DVDs that were only worth $5, $6, $7, $10. And that to me was something that I thought was still good because it was turning over. I was getting sales. They were still selling. But then I actually looked at it. How much time am I spending on these items? Listing them, shipping them, sourcing them, the whole process, everything. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm only making $2 or $3 here on this individual item versus spending for an item that is, $25, $30, $35 worth of a sale price. Well, that's netting me $10 to $15 worth of profit. Exact same time spent, but more money in my pocket. So that's why I adopted the $20 rule, where I will not list an item now that is worth $20 or less. It's got to be 20 or more. It's got to put more money in my pocket every single time that I go to list up an item. And if you're not doing that, you're going to be spending a lot more time than you need to be. Lesson number 13. I used to be a clothing seller, and I know that a lot of you guys that are watching out there do dabble or go pretty heavy in the clothing game. And that's totally fair. I sell media, but I can't knock the clothing category because I know a lot of people successfully selling it. But what I will say for those that are looking into getting into clothing is you do need to pay attention to brands. Brands are going to be the biggest thing that allows you to sell clothing well. So if you don't know what the best men's and women's and kids clothing brands are out there, I highly recommend you spend some time here on YouTube searching for the best brands to be selling on eBay. Now, there are a ton of them out there, don't get me wrong, but it is a highly saturated category and there is a lot of slow sell-through rate products in the clothing game. So putting your time into the brand, getting into the devil of the detail of the niche is going to allow you to be a much more successful clothing seller. And I'm saying this because thrift stores have a ton of clothing. So that's the process to win. Lesson number 14. I alluded to the concern that I had around the big, large, heavy products. Well, this lesson is to do the opposite of that. To actually start looking for the smaller items like an iPhone, like a camera, like a Pokemon card, like a video game, a DVD, watches. There's so many categories out there. I've actually made a video that you can search for on this YouTube channel where I talk about the 10 best-selling small items on eBay. This is easy to store in tubs that you can see behind me, easy to ship off. You're generally not going to run into too many concerns on a shipping front. You're also not going to run into too many concerns on the cost of the shipping when you deal with a small item. So I think it's a great category to get into in general, just small items. So go and check out that YouTube video that I've got on this channel. Just search up small on the channel and you should be able to find it. Lesson number 15. I love this one. This one is a great one for beginners especially. Don't buy just because you like the look of it. That's such a common thing, right? When we go out sourcing and we're in our thrift stores and we're looking around, oh, I like the look of that. Oh, that looks colorful. How pretty is that? But if you're not doing any research on the items that you're buying, chances are that pretty good looking item is generally going to be an absolute waste of money and a heap of junk. Unless you want to buy it for the personal, I'll be putting that back on the shelf, doing your pricing research before you go ahead and decide on picking up the item. So just because you like the look of it, well, it doesn't really mean anything. Lesson number 16. This is a lived lesson. Don't get me wrong, they all are, but this one especially. Just don't buy incomplete sets. This is a great way that looks like a great item, but it's a great way of holding up the sell-through rate and the ultimate sale price of a product. I'm talking about board games, puzzles, DVDs especially. I've been into the DVD game so long, and selling these incomplete DVD sets, they take an absolute age to sell. They don't sell for as much money as you think you might be able to get. And board games often have missing pieces that you run into return errors on. So I look for brand new and sealed or complete series sets if I'm in the DVD game. And I think in general, incomplete is just not the answer. Really make sure that you're just kind of saying no to that. And then when you do see something sealed, obviously pay some attention into doing some research. Just because it's sealed doesn't mean you should buy it either. You need to be making sure you're doing your price search. Again, price research on every single item. Lesson number 17. Okay, now defects. Let's talk about defects. You know, condition is king. I've already spoken about that before, but when you're in thrift stores and you're looking at a product, say for instance a t-shirt, really thoroughly look over for any sort of dry rot holes or marks that you might have not seen, any dirt that you potentially have to go ahead and clean. This one was a big one for me when I first started out in the shoe category. Now for shoes, there was a real issue with the sole wear. And what I would do is I would often buy shoes because I would see the shoe over and over and over again, knowing that it was, say, a $100 shoe, but I was doing no sole test to see how much wear was on the bottom of the sole. Now, condition is king, and pricing is going to be affected based on condition, and I wasn't doing any of that research, so I might have spent $25 on a shoe, but it was a shoe that was now worth $50 because of the sole wear. So you've got to be really, really important here, guys. Check for defects when you're in store. Super crucial because condition is king and you need to be making sure that you're getting the best of the best. Lesson number 18. I'm going to throw another rule at you now, guys. You've probably heard this before if you're on this YouTube channel, but hopefully this one kind of makes you put it into action. The $50 ASP rule. Now, the $50 ASP rule is just having an average of a $50 average sale price. So that might be a bunch of $100 products. It also might be a bunch of $20, $25 products if you're sticking to that $20 rule. But at the end of the day, your eBay data should show you that you're getting an average of about a $50 sale price. Now, if you are, statistics do show that the higher the average sale price, generally the quicker the sell-through rate. So there's a nice little hint and tip there for you guys. You don't need to be listing up absolutely everything on eBay, but if you're going out there sourcing products that have a nice and high average sale price, you can generally know that you're going to put more money in your pocket and get it back in your pocket quicker. Lesson number 19. I really want you guys to make sure that you're factoring in the amount of time it's going to take to clean. Now, we can go back to the shoes, we can go back to the clothing category, pretty much any category that we buy potentially may have, if it's in pre-owned condition, some markings, some dirt, something that we may need to scrub up and put into presentable condition. Now, we need to think to ourselves, how long is that actually going to take? If I buy 20 grubby pairs of shoes and I've got to sit there and put them through the washing machine and scrub out any markings, is that actually worth my time on the eventual profit that I'm expecting to get from this item? Now, I used to do that. I used to sit there scrubbing my shoes, but I thought to myself, man, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go and look for nice and clean shoes that have no sole tread and just deal in that only? That really limited the amount of supply of shoes that I was sourcing, but that was okay because I wasn't wasting time having to go and clean up these things. And this is a big one in the clothing category. It's another reason why I don't sell clothing. I don't have to sit there and scrub a DVD, do I? So I'm always sticking to media for this reason. It's just a much easier thing to sell, but consider the time that it's going to take to prep your item to get it gone. Lesson number 20. In the media game that I do sell, I'm always looking for little nuances like special edition or limited edition, something like that that could pique my interest in maybe wanting to go and search up the item. Now, this could be something random in a bookshelf in a thrift store. It could be literally a book. If you're doing books, you might see something like first edition or something like that that could really spark your interest. Definitely look into it, like go down that process of doing that research. It may not eventuate to be anything that's worthwhile buying, but I've found some really, really good gems when I look for those little characteristics on the specific product. So look for those little markings, those little stickers, those little telltale signs that it could be slightly unique, and that could cause the sales to absolutely pump. So a good little one to be aware of there. Now, you might have thought that that was the end of the video because I did say that there was 20 lessons, but I actually do have 5 more bonus lessons for you guys. And lesson number 21 here is pass on common books, DVDs, and CDs. Pretty much what I'm trying to say here is common anything. A really good example of this would be something like, what could I use? Like Harry Potter, I guess, is a good example where you'll go into a thrift store and you'll pretty much see Harry Potter on DVD in every single thrift store that you go in. Therefore, the sell-through rate of that item on eBay is going to be maybe 200 active listings, 35 sales. I would just pass in that scenario, guys. These common items, they just generally take a hell of a lot longer to sell, and they don't, because they're so common, they don't sell for too much money either. It's very rare to find a very commonly listed item on eBay selling for a ton of money. So I think Harry Potter nowadays goes for about 35 odd dollars, but you've got to really wait 3, 4, 5 months to get that thing to sell if you're going to hold out for the $35 price. So I generally avoid the common stuff. Once you start to see it over and over again in your local thrift stores, begin to say no to those categories. Not categories, those items. Lesson number 22. This is a very funny lesson for me to be talking about, and I'll explain why in just a second, but it's really important to do the smell test on clothing. And I say it's funny for me to be giving you this advice because I actually don't have any sense of smell. I was actually born without any sense of smell. Let me know in the comments if you know anyone else without a sense of smell. But I have been told, my parents, back when I was living with them, when I first started selling on eBay, Kate here in the house, she'll always give me that smell test to say, oh Matt, that's not a great item, it's smelling, or it might not be in the best condition based on smell. So give it a little bit of a smell test when you're out there. And if it is bad, if it's no good, and I'm talking more so about clothing here, put it back on the shelf because you may not be able to get that smell to come out. Lesson number 23. Guys, I think it's really important to dive into the products that you have some awareness of, some knowledge on, and some interest in. So that's a really important thing. Those starting categories for you are going to be your generally most commonly interested in categories. So for me, when I was first starting out, I was looking at hats all the time, and I got to know hats really, really well because you'll see in my videos that I am always wearing a hat on my head. So I started to sell a lot of hats and I started to get really, really into it, and I absolutely loved it because it was a pure passion for me. But then I really quickly realized that hats weren't turning over to be very much in the way of profit. Every now and again I would get a $50, $60, $70 hat, but these $20 to $25 hats that I kept picking up proved to be not the direction that I wanted to go in. But I think it's a great place to start because it breeds motivation when you're going out there looking for items that you're interested in. Lesson number 24. I couldn't talk in this video about buying lessons without talking about the need to be aware of fake items. Now, fake items are going to be literally in every single category that you go out there and source. So what I want you to do around this is to go onto retail sites and have a look at the actual photos that are being listed up for the retail product at the retail recommended price. You know that that is going to be genuine. That's your starting point. From there, you can kind of try and compare it to the product that you have. Now, that's always not going to be an exact match, but it's going to be a really nice place to start. From there, if you've got the, I'm not quite sure about this, generally speaking, you're on the right track and I would avoid it. That's kind of the typical rule that I go by. If I'm a bit iffy and if I'm a bit on the nose, well, not me, but it's a saying, I generally say no. So that's a nice place to start. But then from there, do some recommended retail pricing, go onto forums, ask questions of other people in communities, maybe a Facebook group, something like that, to try and identify it before you list it. Because the last thing you want to be doing on eBay is listing up and selling a fake item without being aware of it. Lesson number 25, and arguably my most important lesson to leave you with. This is another rule. Another rule that I go by, the 3X rule. If you can uncover this information and utilize it in your eBay business, you will have a very successful eBay store. If you could say to yourself, I'm only going to buy something if it is 3 times the amount that I'm buying it for. If you're buying it for $20, does it sell for $60? That is the first thing that I'm telling myself. If I'm in a flea market, a garage sale, a thrift store, whatever that set price point is, I'm trying to 3X it. Now, negotiating is really, really crucial because a $20 item down to a $15 item means that it can sell for just $45 instead of $60. That's why negotiating is just so crucial. So anybody that knocks you for negotiating is absolutely silly. We're all in it to buy and sell for a profit. You've got to make sure it's a win-win for each person, but to simply negotiate to get your metrics to where they need to be is not a bad thing. But this 3X rule is vital. It's built my eBay business because after those fees and postage costs, the 3X rule allows me to 2X my money. I double my money. My $40 becomes $80, my $100 spend becomes $100 in profit, and it is a system that has built my eBay business like you would not believe. So stick to the 3X rule. Don't sort of settle for anything less unless it's got a fantastic sell-through rate. If you know that this item is going to turn over tomorrow, well, you can shorten that 3x rule down to a $100 buy that nets you a $20, $25 return if you know it's going to turn over tomorrow. So sell-through rate does play into the variance of the 3x rule, but ultimately if you stick to that common rule of 3 times in your money, you'll never go wrong. Now guys, I could keep chatting, but I want to basically leave it there because I've been going on for a little bit now. There's always going to be these sorts of videos coming out on the channel. Hit the subscribe button and I'll leave you with this video right here, which is a bunch more lessons. So if you wanted to continue it on, lessons kind of like this, jump over to that video there and we'll continue the party.